to Keeper's Corner Podcast, where we're breaking down anything and everything Utica City FC related. With your hosts, as always, Matthew Sterling, Michelle Brooks, and Brandon Brooks. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of Keeper's Corner Podcast. As always, your hosts are here, Matt, Brandon, and Michelle, and we're joined by a huge group tonight. Returning guests, Katie McKinney and Matt Huber are here, as well as two new ones from the MASL In the Box group and show, Adam Granatella, if I pronounced your name wrong, please tell me, and Giovanni Monterosa. Guys, say hi.
How you doing?
As we're all aware, we have the MASL All-Star Game this weekend. We're going to look at the rosters, do a little breakdown, some projections, talk about the pricing and some of the issues that are going to discuss. Yes, Brandon.
Huber, if that's you, can you mute yourself?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I was trying to figure out what that was. All of a sudden, there's just a jet engine in the background.
I had to say something because it was going to ruin the whole thing.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, he probably shouldn't be driving with the window down at this point in the year, but...
I mean, it's still warm out. There's no snow.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's New York. So never mind.
Just mention it.
Yeah. So you guys are going to be in St. Louis, right?
In Kansas City, yes.
Or, yeah, Kansas City.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah. Wrong side of the state.
Oh, I'd still go out. I'd make a stop at the family center, get some St. Louis garb.
Well, so they're doing a game on Sunday the 6th against Tacoma, and that's an exhibition game, so you could go there.
Yeah, there's a Central Cup that we haven't talked about yet. And
I could make some phone calls and get out there.
And then you have to quarantine when you got back.
Yeah.
Be worth it. I can see my family at the same time. It's win-win. They're like 15 minutes from the stadium.
So rosters were finally announced and finalized. I know we'd kind of, just in comments back and forth, talked about how they should go about doing starting lineups. You know, leave it up to the fans with a vote, try to get some interaction. Have you guys heard anything about that happening, or is it going to be up to the coaches?
I think it's going to be up to the coaches. Keith got a podcast with the coaches and Lane, the owner, and Everton, and somebody else on there, whoever I forgot, sorry. But they, when he mentioned that, he said you should have the fans vote for the starting lineup. Both coaches kind of shied off and weren't really accepting of that as much. I think so. I think they're going to actually put together more of a strategic lineup.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention that something tells me that the lineups are already picked, because a few times on our shows they'll slip up and say the starting goalkeeper or the starting striker. So my feeling is that they already have the starting lineups picked.
Oh, yeah.
And assigned.
Silly question, but who are the coaches for both sides?
You haven't really kept up with this at all, have you?
I've been stuck doing inventory for like the past week and dealing with stupidity. What do you think?
So for the West, it's Tacoma coach Nick Pereira, and for the East, it's Kansas City coach Leo Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, they're both player coaches, which...
I think it's kind of interesting that there's player coaches in MASL, because it's really fun to see the bonds not only as a coach, but also versus a player when they're on the field. Watching the Rochester game when the coach came out on the field was kind of interesting.
So sometime back in April or so, Everton did a couple videos where he called them like his Everton lockdown videos, and he interviewed Nick Pereira, and he got into some of that. So Nick Pereira acts as like the coach and the GM in a lot of these things. So he's not only putting players on the field during the lineups, but he's also trying to pick the lineups and pick people onto the team, signing players here and there. And he was talking about the different choices he has to make, whether he's acting as a coach or acting as a player, and he said some of the things that he would do more as a player he can't really do as a coach because he has to worry about who best would be in that situation. That was kind of interesting, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about player coaches. It's weird. I don't know if you guys remember the first year that the MSL was a thing. After the MISL joined the PASL, Dominic Cicluna was the owner and coach and played for the Detroit Waza Flow. And after they got knocked out of the playoffs, he traded himself to Las Vegas for the playoffs.
Yeah, okay. There's a conflict of interest there at some point.
Yeah.
Small one.
Personally, I do not agree with the player-coach situation. I don't know if we're going to get into that conversation later on, but with the whole Huffman comment. But in there, I pointed out that I just don't agree. It should be a specialization. Coaches coach and players play. Because aside the few samples that they gave where the coach was a defender that actually wanted to win rather than get points for themselves, I think it's a conflict there. If a coach is a striker, like Huffman said, they're going to put themselves in the best position to score rather than to work for the team.
What's the Kansas City coach's position?
Forward.
And Rochester also has a coach.
Doug Miller? Yeah, well, he only suited up, 3 games last year, and I think it was
3.
more injury-related.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for KC, Leo Gibson Leo Gibson's a fantastic forward and always has been. I just see, I have nightmare visions of him with his back to the goal and then immediately spinning around upper 90 in the corner. Like, where did that come from against the Wave over the years? But what he's been doing lately is he's been playing up top as like the point position, but not a defender. So he plays up top as a point, and then as soon as they lose the ball, he's off the field, and he has a defender waiting to jump on the field for him. And that was one of what Huffman was saying. It's like, well, these guys aren't really even playing, defense. I don't know. I don't see a problem with that if you have someone who is a really good tactician and has a really good shot and a really good vision, but maybe isn't as fast on recovery and isn't as good of a defender. I don't see a reason why you can't sub them out.
Yeah, I mean, you see that in other sports. End of a game in the NBA, every time there's a stoppage, they're pulling someone out for offense and putting someone else in depending on where the ball is.
Yeah.
It's a good strategy if you can pull it off.
But yeah, it does add a gray area being the coach calling the shots and putting yourself in that point forward position.
Right.
And by no means am I saying that these coaches are doing that. It's just the position that they play and the role or in the importance and leadership that they have always is going to put that question mark up with their actions. So that's just something to think about. I personally think so.
Yeah, agreed.
I guess the other thing with Huffman, Brandon, were you going to say something?
I was just going to kind of bring it full circle back to the game, or back to the All-Star game. But go ahead.
I was going to go a little bit further with the Huffman comment, where he went on to call it the Leo and Nick and Friends game because of how many players there are from Tacoma. I mean, the West has, 5? Almost a third of the roster from Tacoma. If you want to include Dantas, who's representing the
Playing
East.
for the East, yeah.
Right. And then KC has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, you might as well throw Togba on there. Yeah, he played for Utica last season, but he's from the KC area and played for them before that.
Right.
Huber's back. Hi, Huber.
Hello there.
Fancy seeing you here.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had a different view. So I agree with everything that Huffman said in his video. However, as I've said on our show a couple of times, I want everyone to understand that this is like a really weird situation. The only reason there's an All-Star game is because Lane Smith owns Tacoma and owns KC, and decided to do a joint. And that's why the coaches were picked. We're doing this on both of our teams, and
No, my AC kicked on. I'm trying to mute myself, but
Okay.
Okay. Is Matt driving again?
Yeah.
I'm about to say, it's very talented if he is.
Oh, I'm not.
But yeah, so I see what he's saying, and yes, I mean you look at the rosters and you're like, well, obviously, and it's been this way every game that they've had, every kind of exhibition game, whether it's U.S. versus Mexico or U.S. national team games or everything, it's whatever players are available in whatever region. So of course you're going to get a lot of players from St. Louis and Kansas City because it's in that area. From what we've kind of rumor has it, Florida's owner or coach or GM said nobody's allowed to go to this thing because we're going to keep our team intact and work on things here. Neither of the Mexican teams can really have players. Brian Aguilar just happened to be in the States, so he's able to play. There's just it wouldn't be a typical let's create an all-star roster in complete 100% ideal conditions. So it's really not that case. But I get what Huffman's saying. Obviously, they're in no, and the guy seems nice and he seems like a good player, but in no real-world situation would Nicolau Neto be a third goalkeeper, or there even be a third goalkeeper in an all-star game.
Right.
You're either going to do 4 and everyone plays a quarter, or you do 2 and everyone plays a half. But to add a third on just because he's the local guy, that was kind of. I think that's a slap in the face to some other goalkeepers who deserve it.
Yeah, and Matt kind of brought it up before you guys joined, but he said, it's weird that it's the East with a third goalkeeper when both of the keepers in the West are playing the next night in the Central Cup.
yeah.
For the same team.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not. No, the game on the 6th is not the Central Cup related.
Okay.
It's just an exhibition, but it's still the same. I mean, those are your 2 goalkeepers going into the. So yeah, it is. It's kind of weird why the East has 3 and the West only has 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that might change. The West might throw. The thing with the All-Star game is there's no roster limit, so you could put anyone else on the team anytime.
Well, I was going to say, because last-minute addition, too, wasn't he? Because he was announced, what?
He might have been a last-minute addition announcement, but he might have been there for...
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, he wasn't announced until, Thursday or Friday?
Yeah.
He was announced with pretty much everyone else, Nicolau Neto. Oh, who else? Was it Pep Ellis? But I would imagine he was a part of the team. It's just the way it kind of fell into place.
Yeah, I don't know how the East went, but Nick Ferrer said for the West, he's known for probably a month and a half what his full roster is, and they just announced people during the week to keep the kind of promotion going. I don't know if it's the same in the East. I was talking to Ian Bennett for a while, and up until they announced, he really didn't even know. Either he was telling me he didn't know, or he really didn't know. But I have a feeling he would tell me if he was really going to play. We just didn't know. It was announced. You would think a player of Ian's caliber would be announced right away if one of the first players.
Mm-hmm.
I know they had to deal with travel and arrangements and all sorts of things going on with testing and everything. I think you're testing the players 2 days before, and then right as they get off the airplane before they go to the hotel. And they're basically staying in the hotel when they're not involved in the game.
Right.
Yeah, essentially just being, isolated.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And kind of have to be with everything
with
going
us.
Yeah, we need to find a barbecue delivery place. Now we're fine.
Yeah, we're good. Then we'll be good.
Well, you're only going to be in Missouri, Huber. It's fine.
Oh, I know.
Kansas City's not known for their barbecue or anything.
Nonsense.
There might be a couple places we can find.
Couple probably hole in the wall.
Yeah, those are the best.
Some of the best places, though.
Uber Eats.
So I know everything's weird with the roster being, what they are, but like you said, it's the best we're going to get with everything going on in the world right now. Let's be happy to have some soccer.
Yep.
So that said, that I think there'd still be, there's snubs and surprises on every All-Star team anywhere. And I don't really know if we can go with snubs on this, because who knows what their travel restrictions were or what was going on in their life when this was announced. But I don't know. Looking at the current rosters, there's 17 in the West, 20 in the East. What's everyone's biggest surprise announcement?
Rochester and East. That they have someone on there. It was released. It's Jeremy Ortiz. He is the only Rochester player.
They have Doug.
Oh, they have Doug.
They got Doug Miller too.
But I was kind of shocked to see Rochester was going into this, considering I thought they would want to practice more, get ready if the season does happen. So I was kind of shocked to see that they wanted to participate.
Can I just throw... Okay, we were talking about how Nate was taken off the roster on the website.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Dominic Francis on there twice?
Oh, that could be a oopsie.
That's probably why.
It's probably a glitch.
That's probably why Nate doesn't show up.
That's probably where Nate was supposed to be on one of those.
Which roster are you looking at?
The MASLsoccer.com.
Because I see Nate on there and I see Dominic once.
We see Dominic twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the picture view with the little circle pictures?
Yeah.
Dominic's on there twice. His name and everything is on there twice.
Yeah, when you click the All-Star page, it shows Dominic twice.
Wow. See, this site has been really goofy. One night I wasn't even able to get into these rosters. It kept refreshing me back into the Central Cup stuff, and I couldn't go back to the exhibition games.
Well, there was a few times last season where, for some of the Utica games, for example, Bo had scored a goal, and they would put, Darren Toby scored. And then
He's on the field.
Yeah.
That's just
It was
that's site by site. So what happens is each arena has a person behind a computer, and they usually sit up in the rafter. Well, they did it in Dallas, so they sit up in the rafters or whatever, and they watch the game from there, and then they get from a radio signal or whatever, like a CB radio, who scored or whatever. So I mean, there could be a miscommunication with that. So
yeah, that too.
That's really a league thing. That's more of a site. Each site does that.
Sounds like you're vacuuming over there. So before we get into any of the player things, let's just say that when you hear us whine and bitch about the league, we're never bitching about the players. The players are top-notch talent, and regardless if we have 100% of a team that would be the perfect all-star team, or we have an 80%, or we have a 60%, whatever it is, all of these players are great. They're all talented. They're all phenomenal. My surprise would be Doug Miller, just because of his age and the fact that he came from a team that only won one game last year. But I fully expect to see some really cool things from all the players. And even when I brought up the fact that Neto was, he probably shouldn't be on the roster, I was impressed with what I saw from him last season, and I would think we'll see some pretty cool things from him in the game itself. So I don't want to take anything, that was one of the things why I wanted to not really kind of agree everything that Huffman said, because I want to make sure that the players realize that they are there and they're special and they were for a reason, and maybe they weren't the number one choice, but they're still going to play and they're still going to put on a good show and play their hearts out. We're going to appreciate it.
Just a quick point on the rosters. Something, I think it was Everton that said it, that the rosters are going to be chosen based on the head coach or the coach of the team, based on what they think will work best for the roster. And I never really thought about it in that aspect. I always just thought the best should come, or the best player of each team should come. So if a head coach chooses a player that we might not agree with, it might not be because, technically they're an all-star player, but in our eyes, what we see, we don't think they're the best player and shouldn't be there. So it kind of changed my mind a little bit about how I felt of some of these players, because when I started thinking about it, okay, how would this system work with this player or whatnot, it kind of makes sense. But then obviously there's better players they could have chose, but maybe that coach didn't feel that way.
Right.
But
So essentially, kind of the coach looking at, okay, who might have the best cohesion for the team? Who's going to be able to work best with all the other working parts on the team? Is that kind of the point?
Yeah. So the best player that will work best on this team in their eyes, with a lot of quotes.
Well, let's take one of my favorite players from the wave, Alex Bradley. Of course, all the players on the wave are my favorite players. So that with that caveat, when he was announced, I got a couple messages where like, Alex Bradley, is that the best wave player they could have picked? And my first thought was, well, Alex is great. Why wouldn't Alex be on a team, an all-star team? And then I started thinking about how it came to be. If I'm Leo Gibson, I'm probably looking at players like, who are the players that were so hard to play against for me? And if you watch the games last season, the last 2 seasons, Wave against Kansas City, Alex Bradley just lit them up. And Eric Berger had mentioned that. He goes, Alex Bradley just lit us on fire. And, between Alex and Ian Bennett, it was just like 15 points in like 3 games or whatever it was. And so I think there's a lot of that going on. I think the coaches are going, sometimes it's probably their friends, but it's also who's available, who they've played against, who they know they've played against, and then, kind of put that all together.
Right.
So, I mean, for me, I was a little bit surprised to see James Togba on there. And I only say that, not because he's not a good player, because we didn't get much of a showcase of him this past season. His first season with us in Utica, we didn't get to see much of him, but he got overshadowed with, Darren Toby, Jake Schindler, Onua Obasi. I mean, he didn't have much time to shine, and I really believe that there's a lot of potential with him. It's just we had a lot of defensive talent, I felt, last season. So, I would really like to be able to see him. I would like to see what he could do in this game, and potentially with the season coming up, maybe this can kind of, for me, be almost like a preview for maybe what we have to see from him going forward.
But when he did. He's quick.
Yeah,
he can read the field. Personally, honestly, as much as I love Nate, I was kind of shocked that they chose Nate, because automatically in my head, I'm automatically assuming Christian Segura. But then again, I forget we've got the travel bans in place. But then I've got to remember, Nate is quick. Nate can make plays. Nate was a lot of the time the assister last year.
He was really good at setting up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why he's co-captain.
Yep.
I was really excited to see that they picked defenders for us, because we do have a strong defense, and it's really nice to see that they acknowledge that. Utica City is very defensive when it comes to whenever we're playing, and we have a stacked defense, I guess.
Always have been. I still can't get over the game that Jake scored with his butt.
Tim on his head.
Tim on his head. Were you taking a nap?
What were you doing? Just felt like a right place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was right.
I don't know. I mean, my biggest thing was, my interest in this was just, seeing all of these players work together instead of, these guys are all usually playing against each other on their own separate teams. So being able to see what can happen from this game with all these guys working together, I think it could be really, a really entertaining game. I for one, am definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, agreed.
As much as I love Slav, I want to see the East beat their butt. Sorry, not sorry. Love you, Slav, but
I'm kind of excited just to see the differences, because they pulled players from all of the different teams, and
that's the
to
point
see
of the All-Star
them.
game.
Yeah, to see them on different sides though, and seeing how they're going to react to having a different coaching style and in different stadiums, because some of these guys haven't played that way yet, because last year was really weird and games that were supposed to be played didn't happen.
Last year sucked.
It did. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how they're going to line up, because, I mean, we all know Baltimore and Utica City. Good rivalry. It'll be interesting to see all of them having to play together because the rivalries between East Side teams and West Side teams are going to be there, even if they're not.
Yeah, but at the same time, we've seen these guys off the field too.
They're friends off the field.
Rivalries disappear once you're off the turf, and it's just you're talking to people again. They're not. As soon as that whistle blows, it's done.
Well, it's
usually
sometimes.
Sometimes.
Look at prior to the games. They're usually laughing around, joking around, having a good time. The whistle blows. It's game time. They're going to suit up. They're going to play to the best of their abilities, and hopefully everyone's going to leave everything on the field. Now, I hate to say it in front of Gio, am I going to admit last year after the playoffs when there was the fist fight after the Utica-Baltimore game, that was a little, the tensions ran high there.
A little bit.
I would not like to see that in the middle of the All-Star game.
Right.
I mean, it was a great fight.
Superman punching people?
I am a fan of soccer because of the violence. The only reason I started watching soccer is because Matt told me it was violent.
Superman punched somebody, all right? Lucy Gonzaga, who is known for being quiet, launched somebody down the field.
Not exactly their shining moment.
Not their shining moment.
It's crazy to see that happen because you mentioned Lucio, right? And Mello and Hoxie and Jamie Thomas all coached together. So after that, they have to see each other.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
I mean. Like the game, like prior to the game, everyone's laughing around and joking and having a good time. Like before the Harrisburg game last year, and then that one thing pissed Jake off, and Jake got riled up. It's all it takes.
Also, another great fight.
Yeah, it was great. It was lovely.
Well, I mean, that's
He had it though.
part of the reason we didn't get to see Togba a little bit last year because he was first one off the bench and got the one game suspension.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
You can see where mine's going is there going to be a fight during this game?
It's not hockey.
It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say because these guys haven't played. On one thing, it's the All-Star game, so they're gonna want to show off all their talents and show off themselves. But on the other hand, they haven't played at all in 9 months, and not even like a regular season ending, and then it's 9 months later and they play, or 7 months or whatever it is. But they really haven't played a competitive game of this caliber in that long. So emotions could get really out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just that. Like I know some of the guys for Utica play outdoor,
And they haven't even been able to do that.
They haven't even been able to do that. So I mean, I'm sorry. In my head, I'm picturing them running down the sideline and getting tired out like halfway through and just being like, "Whoo!" That's just me. I'm sorry.
Well, you'd have to. I mean, in any other season, they would be ready to play. I think by now. So I think you're going to see. You're not going to see tired legs. You're going to see the only thing that you're probably going to see is probably like a little bit of miscommunication or not enough chemistry at first, and that's something we brought up, or that's what Nick and Leo brought up a couple weeks ago. They're thinking probably about 5-10 minutes. The first 5-10 minutes might be pure and utter chaos, but once it settles down and everything. It should be okay, but I don't think you'll see tired legs.
I'm wondering if you're going to have to wear masks on the field, because that could be a hinder.
Probably not.
No.
On the benches, yes, but
Probably
not
on the benches, but
it's got to be so hard to run.
If you had to wear a mask,
masks for resistance, though, for breathing control and everything. And I was just thinking, because some of these guys are known for their speed, and I'm wondering if they're going to be forced to wear masks.
No.
Is that going to affect?
No sport that's taking place requires it on the field. The moment they're off the field, it's required.
The only one I saw was like college volleyball.
Yep.
Which is obviously not a sprinting game.
No.
But yeah, everything else, all the European soccer and MLS that's going on, everybody on the sideline has masks, but nobody on the field.
Yeah.
I don't even think the refs do. in soccer. The football NFL refs have masks.
Yeah.
I can only imagine them trying to blow a whistle through a mask.
Right.
From the MLS game that I watched today, yes, the refs that are on the field don't wear masks, but like the line refs and stuff like that stand with the team, they do.
Sure.
Which that makes sense.
That was a great game.
Oh, which game was that?
The Rebs and the Orlando people got ejected.
Outdoorism is fun.
Wait, who won? I didn't watch it.
Not Orlando.
Rebs.
Oh, sorry, Nani. That was his last game. He was retiring after this.
Okay, now I'm sorry. That would explain why he got upset then. Okay.
Yeah.
So back to the All-Star game. I was looking through the roster. So, as probably everyone on this call, we're obviously East fans, and we're more familiar with the East players.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking through some. I have watched a lot of West games. I really like the broadcast that San Diego puts out. I really like watching Ontario over the past couple of years, and Tacoma has some great chemistry and entertainment value.
Yep.
I've watched Dallas before.
Yeah, Dallas and Mesquite were both good to watch this last season too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm a fan of the Mexican teams just because their games are just a completely different level sometimes than
Their announcers are on a whole different level, man.
They're so fun.
I
wish there was English,
minute and a
though.
half long goal yell.
they can
Doesn't
be
matter what
really
team.
for all I know. But so
Oh,
interesting.
Huber.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think we lost Huber.
No, he's still.
No, he just
turned his camera off.
He just shuts it on and off. So just
The one thing I did notice, Mesquite didn't send anybody.
No.
Did something happen that I missed?
Not that's been announced. And we'll just leave it at that.
Nothing
Okay.
official.
Nothing official, but I think last I saw, every one of their free
Got it.
agents is still a free agent.
I was kind of interested that Ontario was able to bring two of their players over.
Ontario, California.
Oh, never mind. I suck.
Yeah, I did. I made that mistake the first time. Like, oh wow,
Like,
you have a Canadian team, and
I mean, the Canadian teams were fun to watch last year. What we could see of them.
yeah.
Now,
Plus, like, ooh.
Frank,
So the interesting thing here is, so I'm in regular communication with a East goalkeeper who no longer is living in the States because of visa issues, but could potentially have come back to play this game. And he was told, no, we're going based off the 2019-2020 season for who we're picking and what we're picking. But then on the West, you have Philip Lund playing, who didn't play a single game in the last season. So that would be a surprise for me. If we're talking about actual, like, what surprised you on the rosters, that would be one of the things. Granted, any season he's played in, he would definitely deserve a chance, a spot on the All-Star team because he's a great player. But just the fact that you have this, well, we're going based on the last season's stats and things, and now he's being chosen while he's a Tacoma player. So,
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. When the season ended and all of the first All-Star team, second team, third team, and stuff like that. I mean, we had all sorts of like issues with it, but it came down to, well, who would you replace? And then you look at the roster and you're like, oh, well, you can't really do it. In the All-Star game, where it's just the coaches picking, we can actually sit here and nitpick. Like I could say Ricardo Carvalho should be on the team.
of course you would.
But at the same time, Kevin Ellis, I mean, yeah, he was okay. Doug Miller, I think, I mean, great guy, but I don't know if he's an all-star back in like 1998.
right?
But now, I don't get it.
Wait,
So-
what?
Now, the last podcast we had, Frank Tayu, he's out, right?
He got injured.
Okay.
And it doesn't sound like it's a serious injury, but it sounds like they want to make sure it doesn't get worse.
It makes sense, because I knew it was one of the Tayu boys, I just didn't know which one. I mean, they're both great, don't get me wrong. I've watched games where they're running circles around people, and I'm confused.
Yeah. But yeah, the rosters are what they are. We're gonna see how everything meshes together Saturday night on Facebook, apparently.
That was weird. I thought they were going to do YouTube.
So I know some about that too, unfortunately, or fortunately. Everyone's first reaction when they announced Facebook Live was exactly what you said, and exactly what I thought, and exactly what everyone else said. But apparently, Facebook is starting up a new pay-per-view stream for content providers, similar to how YouTube does things. The fact that they're calling it Facebook Live is probably one of the worst marketing decisions I've ever heard, because Facebook Live videos are terrible. Mm-hmm. But we've been told that this is going to be a new platform. It's state of the art. It's going to compete directly with YouTube and all the other streaming platforms that are out there. In the fact that it's not just you go to Facebook and you go into a group and you click on a video link kind of thing. We'll see if that's really the case when it comes out. But that's what we were told, and that's how Facebook has kind of marketed this.
I'm curious to see if they're going to put, if the season starts, if all the games are going to be on Facebook, or are they going to continue with the YouTube channel? Because does that mean all of the games are going to have to be paid for, or how is that going to even work? I know COVID is probably going to be a factor because there's going to be restrictions on fans in the stadium. You can't social distance with a full stadium. I'm sorry, it's not possible. But
right. And you guys in Utica have it bad because you're always sold out, and it's a smaller arena.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's a great arena, but
yeah, St. Louis has 9,500 capacity, and they have a couple games a year where they get over 5,000, but most they're around 3,000, and around 3,000, 3,500 is what their capacity will be this season. They just have to open up the whole thing. Milwaukee obviously can't have anybody in 2021 at all until the fall. Baltimore is going to be tough because that's another smaller capacity.
It's a basketball arena.
it is.
Right.
We were there last year, and it was a great place to have a game and everything, but the fact that half of the stadium isn't being able to be used was interesting because everyone was kind of spread apart, and there was clusters, but half of it wasn't even used. They could have totally used that to their advantage.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting as far as the pay-per-views. So that what we were told, we talked to Shelley Clark, owner of the St. Louis Ambush, on Friday, and from what she was saying, they're using this the Facebook stream. They haven't even done a stream for the Central Cup, which is a week from Friday, December 12th. They haven't chosen a stream for that yet because they want to see what happens with the All-Star game with the Facebook stream, and then they're doing that Tacoma at St. Louis game on the same platform the following day. So they want to see what it's like, what kind of views they get, what kind of complaints they get, if it's a pain to get set up, if it works, and then they'll decide during that week what to do for the Central Cup. My personal thoughts are we're going to see pay-per-view games of some sort, whether it's a season package, a team package, a per-game thing, or whatever. I think we're going to see that this year, and I think if it works well, I think we'll see it going forward. Just because of the fact that the teams every team's going to take a loss who's playing this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially with the border restrictions, you're not going to be able to bring players from Mexico. Yep. We're not going to be able to see the Canadian teams at all.
There are no Canadian teams. Mississauga.
Canadian players at least.
There's Canadian players. We're not going to be able to see any of them, and that's going to be a really big interest because a lot of the teams bring players from all the different areas. I mean, we're going to lose Segura, which is devastating because he is so fun to watch on the field. Salas and all of them.
Not necessarily. You can still travel across the border for work.
Yes.
But, Canada, they don't want you bouncing back and forth. If you come into the States for the season, you're here through the season.
Case in point.
You're basically committed to being here. You're stuck until the season's over, or whatever, which means that they're away from families, they're away from jobs. That's a huge commitment for these guys, and it's really, in some cases it could be pretty unreasonable to ask, essentially.
Case in point, Mugen just left his family and landed in Philadelphia this afternoon.
Oh,
I didn't see that.
I was on Instagram.
But
No, he should be there. I think Mugen should be an all-star.
Oh, yeah.
Great. He's so fun to watch. He's so nice.
It's not just that if you stop and think about it, to me, when you think about an all-star, like, in general of what an athlete should be, you know, the personality that you should have, like, the way you carry yourself. Like, you think about a lot of these players, like, Ian Bennett's one of them. Mugen is another. They're always so nice to people, you know, talking to them. Anyone who messages them, they'll give them the time of day.
I kind of hope that they take some of the feedback we're giving this year and put it to next year if they're able to do this again, because there's a lot of players that when you look at the MASL in the box or MASL off the wall, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I really wish this person had been able to be on there. Like, I wish we had a say in this, because there's so many players that should have had the opportunity and we don't even know if they were considered or not.
well, that's how you get people invested in a game that doesn't mean anything.
Then you can only, but at the same time, though, you can only take that so far, because again, you know, going back to how the rosters were chosen, you know, it wasn't like or at least not so much how they were chosen, but more of like we were talking about earlier with the starting lineups. I mean, you know, having fan involvement in that is one thing too, but at the same time, you still need to have some semblance of, you know, a competitive nature there. You can't just base it on, hey, the fans want this, let's give them what they want. You know, maybe the fans get to pick like one player. They all get to vote on it and do something like that. Then it's one rather than influencing the entire roster. And it can still be a hand-picked list of, okay, the coach has these 3 last players that they want to pick. Put those 3 in and say, you know, all 3 of them be good for the team based on what the coach says, but put it up to the fans. That way the coach wins regardless and the fans win. It's, you know, it works.
Well, see, I don't know. The Pro Bowl for the NFL, we vote him in, but then the coach gets to choose who starts.
That would be an interesting option.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Matt.
well, I think you're going to see changes in the format of the All-Star game as we move on from this one. This is kind of like the first one in 20-some years. So obviously there's going to be changes made to it, and I think you're going to see more of the fans' involvement. You know, I don't think it's going to be to the effect of fans are 100% going to vote people in, but I think you're going to see some sort of fan participation, just like in baseball or any other sport.
Yeah, I agree. We also have to consider that this sport is a lot different than like the NFL or NBA, where you can really take any player and put them into the All-Star game, and there's no conflicts. Whereas this league, you may have, you know, players who end up joining, you know, being chosen, and they just can't make it.
Right.
We were talking to Joey Capinos, and he said he makes more money in his family's chimney sweeping business than he does in the MASL. So it really has to be a good fit for him to want to go play for a team rather than just stay not playing at all.
Yeah.
So I want to make a quick point with the reference as far as like the international players, specifically the Mexican players. Right now, the state Mexico's in, there's a lot of travel restrictions, so they can't. While the border on the USA side might be open, there's some states in Mexico that won't allow anyone to exit their state. So, for example, the players that are playing in the northeast, the northern state, which is Chihuahua, those players are stuck there. So I'll tell you a little story. Telo, who is the Blast player now, he was playing in Chihuahua in the La Liga Mexicana, and he had about like 3 days to exit that state to get home to Chicago in order to be able to come play in Baltimore. If not, he was going to be stuck there when they canceled the league. So they postponed the league, and he had about 3 days to get out of Mexico in order to make it back to the States, because they were going to close the border.
A bad 80s movie in the making.
Right. So those are the situations that we might not see any Mexican players for a while, because whether they have their visas or whether USA has their borders open, these Mexican states might shut it down and they can't leave the state. So I just wanted to make that point and bring it to everyone's attention that we could be entering a season with a lot of these players not coming home, because you have a lot of them, like for example, Segura, he's playing in Monclova right now. And if that state right now, they just entered orange, if it enters red, he's not coming home for some time.
And that doesn't even include the visa players that don't have legal visas. Last year, San Diego had 12 visa players that didn't have updated visas.
Exactly.
We had issues with visas last season.
What's that?
I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Mugen landed in Dallas 2 hours ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Makes more sense.
That does make more sense. I'm curious to see how COVID's going to affect the official season, like how it's going to affect the rosters and everything. Like we see that it's already affecting the playoffs, because there's a lot of players that I'm sure a lot of us were hoping to see, and they're not able to be here because of their restrictions, and how it's going to affect the regular season.
So I think this is my personal opinion, and this is maybe me wishing of the future, but I would be surprised and hope to see that some of these teams develop a second team, like a M2 team or M3 team for player development. So in case of visa issues being prolonged, or in case of injuries, they have players they can call up and are familiar to us, or somewhat familiar to us, and don't have to scramble for players. Because I think COVID is going to take away a lot of roster spots, and they're going to need to be filled. Instead of having random tryouts, already have players developed. So I wouldn't be surprised if teams start developing those teams where they can grow players. Like I know Kansas City, they're so excited about a lot of their young players that they're bringing up. I know Baltimore has a lot of youth here and teams that they can pull from. They have a lot of relationships with the amateur outdoor leagues here, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, they have a full practice team that they have players sign on for a year, and they just come out and practice with them. They're pretty much like the playing team. So when the team has to scrimmage, they scrimmage them in order to get ready for the game. They have a full roster of that, and they just call them up if they need be. And that's the whole thing with Jake. Jake got signed because he was part of that whole group, the new player that Baltimore announced. So I won't be surprised if other teams start taking that route because of COVID.
The regular season to me is still so much unknown, and it's weird saying that we're potentially 30 days away from a new season. But like, if we look at right now, two Mexican teams out, Waves out, Turlock is probably gone, Mesquite is probably gone, California teams can't play in their arenas right now, New York teams can't play in their arenas right now, Baltimore can't play in their arena right now. So you have essentially what the Central Cup is, and that's it. And then Florida will may or may not be able to. Yeah, I mean, we keep Florida's like in their own. Both Florida and Tacoma are kind of in their own corners where they can't bus anywhere. They have to fly everywhere they go. So as soon as you get a player on the team who's positive, then you go into quarantine protocols and contact tracing and that whole thing, and then who knows what happens at that point. But then again, 30 days from now, it could be completely different. It could be completely worse. It could be completely better. That's kind of what the point Shelly made. She said, right now we're allowed to have fans in the arena. We're allowed to play. So we're just going to Central Cup thing right now and give the fans something, give the players something, and do something with the full intent on preparing for a season. But if they're, who knows what's going to happen.
I can see a lot of the teams taking advantage of the season ticket holders and letting them in the stadium first, and if there's extra spots, letting others buy in, or giving perks to like season ticket holders who relinquish their seat for a game to let other fans rotate through. I can see that being a factor in this because of how popular MASL is. And if it does come out that there is a sport going on and fans are allowed in, I can see MASL taking off more than it has, because the teams are great. It's a fun sport. It's very family oriented, as long as there's no microphones on. We've heard some of the stories. Yeah, nope. But
Or right at the children.
yeah, that wouldn't end well. But I can see COVID being a terrible thing, but I can see it doing great things for sports like MASL because they'd be able to come out, they'd be able to showcase that it's a fun sport and it's a great community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, go ahead, Matt.
this is going to be a key season for the MASL. I mean, so if we're looking at, and Adam said it, basically there's 4 or 5 arenas that could officially hold games right now.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that can change in 30 days, whatever. So let's say for fans of Utica who wouldn't be able to watch it, how would the league get new fans to watch the sport? And that kind of goes into the whole pay-per-view thing. And I think the pay-per-view is going to hopefully help bring new fans to the sport. I mean that's the hope. Because if not, I mean, some of these teams might not. I mean, a lot of these teams are going to take a loss. How much of a loss is going to depend on how they present their games to their fans.
See, that's interesting, Matt. I think it's the opposite. I think the pay-per-view is going to be a desperation to get as many of the existing fans as possible to pay for seats or pay for games that they either don't feel comfortable in going to, or just can't, the team can't have local. There's already a couple talks about teams not playing any home games, only playing road games, and that way the fans would only be able to see them on pay-per-view. So I'm afraid that this is more of a. I don't want to use the term money grab because that's the first thing that came to mind, so I shouldn't have even said it. But I think it's and I even don't want to use the term desperation, but almost a way to recoup loss that with no understanding they're probably not going to grow at all by doing that, because you're going to turn off a lot of people by charging for games.
Right, and that's what Shelley was saying in the show when we had her on, is that they're going to use this as a way to minimize loss, so that they don't have to take, because they're already expecting to lose money from this season. Right. But they don't want to lose as much, and what they could do is pretty much damage control. And I get that, and by all means, I'm going to be buying the pay-per-view and watching the games. But it's kind of disheartening to see that that's one of the possible ways to survive, or only way to survive. Which I don't think that's true, but that's what it feels like.
I think I'm going to have to play devil's advocate on this, because even if they go onto different platforms like the Facebook Live, you're going to have people sharing those stations. It's going to reach more people, because half the people on my friends list don't even know that MASL is a thing. Like, a lot of my friends, they didn't even know I go to games.
I don't think you're going to be able to share a pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, you can share the event, but that's no different than sharing the game event previously.
I mean, even depending on how they do it, I think it could be a great idea. Being able to share those, or like inviting people to like a show party, would be interesting, because you'd be able to have group chats with the people that you watch the games with normally. And being able to interact like that would be a huge thing, because you can still be in isolation, quarantining, whatever you need to do, and still being able to be with the people that you love to see the games with. Like being able to hang out with Hubert and Matt and Brandon, and Matt is next to me. Hello, Babka.
You live with him.
Hey, I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to let you roll with that one.
So I've been drinking. There was a little bit more vodka in this than I planned.
That is not an excuse.
It's been a while since I've drunk any drink. I'm done.
Go to bed.
I think the success of the pay-per-view fully hinges on the price point.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mind throwing $15 out for the All-Star game. It's something different. But
you paid $15 for the All-Star game?
Yes, that's what they're charging for the pay-per-view.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which I think is a fair price point.
A lot less than what we expected.
Which is funny though, because it was announced on Tozer's podcast it was going to be 18, and then I posted a poll saying in the box asking if people thought 18 was too much or if they would pay it, and the no, I will not pay $18 for a game won by a handful of votes, but it was enough that it seemed like a lot of people wouldn't do that, and then the next day they came out and said 15.
I mean,
So I think what Adam's trying to say is that we are kind of manipulating this whole thing.
I think if they offer it as like a package deal, you get all of the games for the entire season, not just like individual teams for a decent price. Or even if I wouldn't put it at the cost of a season ticket. Season tickets are over $100.
Oh, is that Is that all?
It's not bad. I mean, I've certainly looked at seats that cost more than that just for a Yankees game, but
Oh, we know you have. That's a thing. But like,
but I mean, I think our tickets average like
I think it's $14.
$14.
The new price up probably makes them $15.
Right around $14-15 for where we sit. Yeah, we're second tier in Utica, but even the first tier might average, $20 for a ticket.
About 20.
Matt would probably know more about that.
Well, I would know about this year because I paid $25 for my season ticket.
Aren't you lucky?
That's the perks our way. Come on, Huber.
No, it was the credits from not having the 3 home games. So I only paid $25.
You paid $25 for the whole season?
What?
How did you manage that?
Yeah, they've definitely taken more than that from me.
Well, it's because, like I said, I mean, we had 4 tickets.
Right.
And I paid for mine. And the other 3 tickets have not been claimed or nothing's been said about them. So.
Okay.
Oh, that makes more sense.
The ticket rep said, "Do you want the credit to go toward your seat?" And I said, yes, I do.
That would be why, because I think we didn't get the playoff tickets or anything, so our credit was about $35-40, I believe.
Yeah.
And that
But you have to look. Yeah, I think 15 is about a good price. It's like good middle of the road between your normal tickets you have to a game. So, and the thing is, the $15 with, if you were watching a game in, let's say, Turlock, for example, now I would pay $15 maybe to hear the announcer, and that's it. The quality of the game is not really that good.
Mm-hmm.
But this is Kansas City. You've got 2 of the best broadcasters in the league, and they're going to have a lot of different cameras. So I think $15 is a pretty good price.
I think if they had charged like $50 or something, I don't think a lot of people would have gone for that.
No one would have done.
Like, I can't see. I think
No, I would have. No, don't say that.
Not as many as 15. But then what do you do during the season?
That's what I paid for a ticket to the All-Star game. So.
Yeah. But then what do you do in the season? If you say $5 a game, and then hope that people are going to watch.
I think what you do is, and this would be in a perfect world. This is what I wish they would do. Is do it similar to like all of the other leagues, where they have one price. You get to watch any game anywhere, but you could also, let's say Utica is playing in Baltimore. You can watch either the Baltimore announcers or the Utica announcers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I kind of like that idea because the announcers are so much fun. They make the game when you're not there.
I would much rather hear Ray Biggs than the Baltimore announcers.
Yeah, we will.
I love Ray.
I would rather hear static. I would rather hear 3 hours of static than the Baltimore announcers. Sorry, Jim.
Are you guys trying to say they're biased?
It's gotten a little bit better. Come on.
That was the best part about going to the game in Baltimore. I didn't have to listen.
Oh, my favorite was for him freaking out all of the Baltimore players by doing a UCFC chant, and they thought it was for Baltimore, so they kept clapping.
Wait a second, are we talking about Baltimore announcers? Have they learned to speak names correctly?
No.
Okay.
But of the 100 things that are most annoying about them, that only ranks about 50 or so.
The guy with the drum at the Baltimore game was the most annoying thing on the face of the planet, though. I'm sorry.
But why?
Oh, you can only take so much drum.
Gianni at one point?
Are they the ones?
Well, that was a long time ago, but he does it for fun sometimes.
I almost just asked if they were the ones who played Baby Shark. No, that's Rochester.
That was
Rochester.
Yeah.
teaching this portal to.
Yeah.
Opening the portal to Satan.
The COVID portal.
Yeah.
Baby Shark.
An ancient.
I mean, of course, going back to, the whole thing about the ticket price, but also kind of talking about the fact that, what if we did have the choice of announcer? Obviously that would, of course, drive up the cost because now you're paying two announcing teams for the same game. Whether a team is one person or two or whatever, you still have to pay those people. So I mean, that's going to, that would drive up the ticket not only for single games, but for the season ticket overall if they have some sort of season ticket system.
All right, I'll do it for free, and they can bring us in as a watch party event.
Oh, jeez. That would be entertaining.
No, you know what? Tim Goldman, he already has the gear because he's a DJ.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think having a tier system, if they decide to do it this way, would be an option. Having like a baseline, just like being able to watch the games, maybe having the second tier being able to choose that, and maybe the third one being able to like pick a team player to like have a video chat for like 20 minutes or something like that could also be an option because we're all stuck at home, and what's better than being able to talk to your favorite player? Like having a one-on-one time with any of the players would be really fun. Like, I know I would choose Goldman just because he is so ridiculously funny, it's hilarious. Or Paulo from St. Louis Ambush, I would choose to talk to him too if I could.
Just go to Babes, you'll find Bo.
Yeah, that's true.
No, we found Phil.
Yeah, we did find Phil.
I found Bo.
Aw, I wish we found, no offense, but I'd much rather see Bo than Phil. Sorry, Phil.
Oof.
No.
I owe Phil a beer.
That's one of the big things about the All-Star game that people should embrace. Once everything opens back up and we're back to normalcy, being able to go and travel and meet new people and meet the players that we haven't really talked to, I'm excited for the game, but I'm also excited, I don't know why I'm saying this, I'm kind of excited to meet Adam for the first
In person.
And I'm also excited to talk to players that I haven't talked to before. I'm talking to Elton De Oliveira from Harrisburg on Twitter. It'll be cool to talk to him, or Corey Keats from Tacoma, or Shelly Clark from St. Louis. I'm super excited about bouncing ideas off of all of these players and owners and the commissioner possibly. And that's why I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited for the game, and I'm excited to see my players play and harass them on the airplane. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm excited to see other fans and other players.
I'm kind of jealous that you guys are getting to travel with the team, even if it's only once enough of it.
No, she doesn't fly.
Not unless I'm heavily medicated. I am
That's a you
terrified of heights
problem.
and in close places.
Get drunk. That's a you problem, boo.
I'm not allowed to drink in public anymore.
He's told me that so many times, I'll still do it.
There is a reason for this.
The flights are super early, so you can't really get drunk because none of the bars are open.
I can bring a flask.
They do restrict you on how much you can bring in and everything, but yeah, I can't fly at all.
What about mouthwash bottles?
They have to be sealed.
You mean the 4 bottles of schnapps we have on top of our fridge that Kay won't drink?
I don't like schnapps. I just like saying schnapps. They were a present. I don't drink schnapps, so if anyone wants schnapps,
You know what? You don't make sense to me sometimes.
Join the club.
When I waved at you.
What?
Blatantly in your face. Anyway.
sidetracked there.
Yep, it's our podcast. We always.
It usually happens
Sorry, guys.
at one time or another.
Yeah, we never get sidetracked.
No, I don't even think we have tracks.
No.
Are you guys just running a whole bunch of suicide sprints and then whoever you just get to the end whenever?
Off-roading.
We had a 4.5 hour show once.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, we were up until like 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know, usually at this point, Michelle's kind of going, let's wrap it up.
I'm usually snoring upstairs, not gonna lie.
The booze helps, okay.
Oh, I'm still not done with mine.
It's a babe's cup.
For my
that's awesome.
Oktoberfest.
So do
Yep.
we, okay.
Oh, okay,
I like Brandon's better.
Do we talk, do we break down the game, give predictions now?
Yeah, I think that's where we're at. If everyone wants to, I don't know if we can exactly have a score prediction, but pick a side you think's going to win, and like high scoring, low scoring. I mean, if you want to throw numbers out there, be my guest. You're brave.
Well,
I'm voting east side.
we've already given our predictions, and some of us are not on the same side, so it's kind of cool that we did that. So I say 10-8. I think the East has more offensive prowess, and I mean with the injury to Frank Caillou is huge for the West. So how do you replace that? Of course, you have Brian Aguilar, which I can't wait to see him play. But I just think you've got Vinny Dantas up top. You've got a left-footed Dominic Francis, who I think is going to be the MVP of the game. I think 10-8.
I'm gonna go 6-7 East. I think the East side, I'm a little biased, but I think the defenders and the goalkeepers alone are gonna cause a great issue. Because I see Paulo, I see Vanzella, and they're both really strong goalkeepers. We also have the other goalkeeper who I can't see because the list isn't far enough down. Neto. And we also have some great defense, and our offense is pretty strong too, but I think Eastside's going to do it, considering all of the factors.
I'm going 13-11 East.
Sorry, go ahead.
13-11 East.
Yeah, 13-11 East. Max Fernandez MVP.
Brandon, Michelle, how about you guys?
Just based on kind of the back line, like Katie said, with the goalkeeper, the defense that we've got, I'm gonna actually give it a little bit more of a margin. I'm gonna say we'll say a 9-5 East, only because of the strong defense and goalkeeping.
Do I need to come up with a score, or can I just say that I love Ubi, but I hope the East stomps the crap out of the West?
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay, cool.
So I'm actually gonna play devil's advocate, even though my heart is the East. my heart is in the East, but I'm gonna actually choose the West. I'm gonna go 9-8 the West.
I have to ask why.
If the East wins, Gio, you all of us a beer, then drink.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
And all your teammates, all your team and your fan friends are all going to know that you picked against them.
It's okay, but when I win,
I have to ask, why do you think West is going to be East?
So honestly,
Sorry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, honestly, it's just by the player selection. So if you get Brian Aguilar, Lipe, Guerrero, Cesar on the field at the same time, obviously we're not going to have Frank Caillou, but being led by Charles, they're just the ball movement, the way they think, because they all grew up well, not grew up. They all play down in Mexico, so they have a similar style. They didn't separate until they got here. So that style doesn't leave them, and you can see it when they start playing, whether it's the agility, whether it's the creative playmaking. Those certain players, once they get on the field together, I think it'll be hard for the East. I know the East does have great defense and midfielders, but I'm worried about the strikers working back. Because if Dantas is in there, I love Dantas, but he's not working back. So those are the issues I see. Because when I watch the West, whether it's Dallas or it's Ontario, they have that mentality of the whole team working back. Most of them. I will put that caveat there. Because Styles is not working back. But like I said, that style might be an issue, because I mean that's what we struggled with in the playoffs. I know the Blast has come through a few times, but if you see it, they're always tough games. I mean, even watching the game with Flash and I can't even say this team's name, but the Wave.
You mean the one where the Wave defense shut down?
Yeah.
Blast and then Monterey to a total of 3 goals in 2 games?
Yeah. But even watching that game, you saw the difficulty it was to keep up with their speed. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that the Wave was structured right in the back, it could have run differently.
But it didn't.
Yeah.
We love you, Gio.
I appreciate it. I just feel a lot of animosity right now.
I mean, no more than usual, so there you got that going for you.
That's true.
So you're saying the East is going to come up short?
He's going to hold all of this beer.
Just like a certain field.
Yeah. I do.
All right. I guess I'll get my prediction in here, and then we can wrap things up. Mine's going more based on what you tend to see in other All-Star games, where the defense lacks a little bit because everybody wants to show off what they can do offensively, even defenders. I'm expecting, and you've got 2 keepers that have to play the next night. Plus, you have 3 in the East, which is going to create, I'm sure, a weird keeper rotation. I'm thinking something like 16-14, and if they had Frank Taiu, I would give it to the West, but without him, I've got to give it to the East. There's just a few more offensive threats without the King out there.
Fair enough.
Now, do I expect defense to be completely lacking? No, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of overly aggressive scrums in the corner going for the ball. No one's going to want to get hurt with the potential for a season in less than a month.
What about shot blocks? Do you think they're going to go down as hard for shot blocks as they usually do?
Probably not. I don't. You might see the attempts here and there from some of the more stalwart defenders, but I mean, there was a game last year in Utica where we had, I think it was the same game, both Momo and Tim Goldman, who are forwards, were laying out in front of the net to block shots. Like, you're not going to see Craig Giles doing that, or Leo Gibson, or any of these other forwards. They're not going to take the play off, but they're not going to throw their body around too much and risk the season ahead. As always, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at